Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about one of the things that I think that frustrates me as an online educator, as well as a strength coach, are the silly, absurd, hypothetical questions that people ask. And the reason I say this is that some of these questions, the actual wondering of them or pondering them or spending a lot of time worrying about them instead of just learning how to train correctly, with proven protocols that are well understood by all the best coaches in the world, people ask these silly questions to get them sidetracked. And it's like, oh, I want to try this and experiment with it. And it's like, well, what makes you think coaches haven't already experimented with that and found it to be total trash 37 years ago? Do you understand where I'm going there? The odds that any weird, bizarre scenario you come up with hasn't already kind of been tested and just thrown out by coaches isn't actually very good. And I'll get all these weird questions, and people are like, well, I know that you recommend upper lower 4 days a week and then smaller work in between or GPP, but couldn't I, they want to just lump stuff in. It's like, why? Do you have a good reason for doing that? I had a client who is himself a personal trainer, and he's like, well, could I do conjugate this way and just do full body repetition with a bunch of fives as a repetition day and then max effort on the other two and just make it a 3-day program? And it's like, why do you want to do that? Is the person you're training lazy? I get it if you have an athlete who can't allocate 100% of their recovery towards training. That's when a 3-day program makes sense. Absolutely makes sense. Right? An in-season athlete or a serious athlete who's got other sport-specific training and conditioning, okay, I get it. We could mess with 3-day conjugate for them, but why would you think that that's optimal for anybody else? Why can't someone get in 4 days a week? Or you get people who they want to increase the frequency further. They're like, well, it's a 7-day human calendar, and the human body doesn't work on a 7-day cycle. Couldn't I? It's like, but these methods are already tuned in terms of volume, frequency, and everything for a 4-day. It's very time proven and effective. Why throw a wrench in it without a good reason? And I'm not saying there aren't reasons, but I can assure you that most of you guys out there listening are not the exception to the reason to that rule. If you're a recreational lifter, you're not a very serious athlete, I promise you, you're not in the category that's going to be the exception to some of these rules. Yes, there are elite athletes who need to break out of these boxes. But why do something different from what's been proven? Why don't you just learn how to train? Other examples, a guy was asking, hey, if I didn't do anything but the low bar squat and it went up 40 kilos while training it, how much do you think my deadlift would go up? I'm like, your deadlift's going to regress. Right? People ask questions like that. It's like, you didn't do any grip work. You know how long it takes to put 40 kilos on your back squat? Unless you're a ranked novice, a year, 2 years. So you're basically telling me you went 2 years without doing any arm work, any upper back work, no grip training, minimal posterior chain, because the squat doesn't work the hamstrings. The low bar squat doesn't work the hamstrings that well. And you think your deadlift is going to be the same? And people will ask absurd questions. Well, what if I just did this? Like, that's idiocracy. And I know you think it's an intelligent question, but it's like, if you want to get better at deadlifting, you should probably do something besides just the low bar squat. Your deadlift will regress. If you had a 500-pound deadlift and you did that, I promise you're only going to have like a 350 deadlift now. Because your hamstrings, your upper back got smaller, your grip got weaker. You regressed all those things. Why would you think your deadlift would increase? People will hear me say things like, I'll talk about comparative lifts. Yes, if you get your lifts to this point, it'll build your deadlift for supplemental work. That doesn't mean that that's all you do. That means that you're on a proper training program. Okay, and I want people to understand that difference. When I talk about if you can do strict good mornings and strict pen lay rows for X amount of weight and reps, you can probably deadlift a certain amount of weight. I'm assuming that you're box squatting and doing speed pulls and all this other stuff in between, or submaximal pulling, right? Submaximal deficit work. I'm assuming that you're also box squatting and other stuff with it. I'm assuming you're progressing on these other lifts. That's not those lifts by itself. Those aren't hypotheticals thrown out by themselves in isolation. That's part of a bigger program. You know, but people will ask all of these questions of what if I do this, what if I do that? And it's like, what if you just learn how to fucking train? We need a moment of silence there. And I will state that again. Instead of some of these hypotheticals of what if I did this, what if I did that, what if you just fucking learned how to train? What if you did that? Like, how much better would it be if you just learned how to train correctly and follow proper programming that is time-proven, effective, work on your weak points, and train really, really hard? What if you did that instead? What if you did that instead of your hypothetical question? Because everyone wants to do that. And they want to take these weird shortcuts and they want to neglect things as these hypotheticals. And it's like, well, if I were to prescribe you that as a coach, I'd be a really bad coach, wouldn't I? So what if I did that as your coach? Well, what if you just go ahead and fire me for being a crappy coach? And so let me ask you that question. If you paid a coach and they told you to do this silly nonsense that you guys come up as hypotheticals, instead of doing what they know for a fact works, are they a good coach? Would you pay them? Okay? No. So why would you come up with hypotheticals yourself and say, well, what if I did this? Well, what if you just stay a weak pussy the rest of your life then? Because that's what it sounds like you want to do. That's what it sounds like. Instead, learn how to train. I have endless videos demonstrating for you guys how to perform lifts. I have endless videos explaining how to program this stuff. I mean, even guys who are like, well, conjugate's complicated. I've given you guys free templates and videos for late novices, early intermediates on how to set up a conjugate program if you don't know how to do it. It's not even that complicated. It really isn't. It sounds complicated till you do it. People make it more complicated than it has to be. I've given you guys successful outlines that will actually work. Now, I'm not saying you couldn't benefit from someone coaching you further on it. But if you're not willing to take the next step and hire a coach, I've given you guys somewhat free templates that'll work. It's all there. Once you just learn how to do this stuff correctly. But everyone wants to do these goofball things. They want to do unproven stuff. And I get it. People say, well, maybe I want to be at the cutting edge. You don't even have the facilities to be at the cutting edge. Like, how are you even going to find the cutting edge? And I mean that as a serious question. If you're training by yourself, you're not training a team of 50 athletes where you can break them into groups and compare them. Like, you're not coaching a whole facility with 50 or 100 athletes. How in the world are you going to discover anything that works? You don't even have the facilities, the equipment, the gym, the people to experiment on. You don't have any of it. And you probably don't even have the experience coaching to figure it out. So why do you guys do this to yourself? Find what works. No, you don't find what works for you. You go find what works for everybody. You need to find the methods that all the really good coaches in the world use and understand how they work. Or I just give them away free. If you don't understand them, I give it away for free. Yeah, I'm a dirty slut like that. Giving it away for free, baby. It's all free. There, if you just guys want to follow all of it, it's there. Why don't you just do what works instead of thinking that you're going to find some weird exception to the rule when you don't even have the facilities to test it on? You don't have 100 test subjects. You're not going to find it. Do what is proven to work, and you're going to be better off for it. And I get that too. I get a lot of my lifters like, I don't know the conjugate. I don't know if that's going to work, until they start hitting big PRs. And they're like, oh, I put 150 pounds on my deadlift. Okay. Yeah. And I'm talking novice lifters getting up to 450 deadlifts who are under 200 pounds. who started with a 300. All right, that's what happens. Just do what works. As long as you just learn how to train, guys. All right, rant over.